Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second show of the Ellory Wells Show. Man, it has been quite a journey getting the Empowered Podcast wrapped up and bringing this new content to you. It was a bittersweet. It's closing. It just cliches come to mind. Closing the book, opening a new one, ending one chapter, starting another one. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we've got a really cool show. But before we get into some of the content, like I mentioned in the last episode, we're going to do a variety of different things. Today we're going to have a coaching call segment with my friend and listener and reader, John Stolpe, and that's coming up here in just a second. And I've also got some feedback. I've been I emailed a lady that I had met in person right at a year ago, and I just wanted to see what was up with her and how she was doing, how things had progressed in her life over the last 12 months. I know a lot has changed for me, and I wanted to see how she was doing, and I got an email response. I want to share that with you. But first, I've got a listener question. I reached out and asked them for some questions that people had, and we've got a question here in just a couple seconds from Joe Pardo, and I'm going to answer that question. If you have questions, go to ellorywells.com/show. I want you to submit a question. I can answer it on air, or if it's a private question, just let me know. I'll reply back to your email or whatever it is. I just want to help you, so if it's a private question, I don't have any problem with that. But if you'd like me to ask your question, mention you here, I won't say on the air, but as if we were on the radio. But I'll mention you, and we'll record your question, and I'll answer it live, and you'll get your question. So we'll do that here in just a second. We'll talk about this email that I got back from a lady named Kim, and we'll go into the coaching call with John Stolpe, and we'll wrap up today's episode. Hope you're having an awesome day. Let's go into the Q&A. Hi, and welcome to the Ellory Wells Show, where real entrepreneurs talk about real problems and real goals and real solutions to help you start, build, and grow your business. I'm your host, Ellory Wells. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm Joe Pardo from superjoepardo.com. Ellory, I want to know, which social media platform do you like best for promoting your content and why?
Hey, Joe, thanks for asking that question. Social media is a hot topic, and there's always something new and changing. So not to dodge the question, but I want to make sure I explain something first as well. My social network of choice might not be your social network of choice. And as you are growing your business, or you're looking to start your business, it really doesn't matter what anybody else's favorite social platform is. For example, if you are doing arts and crafts, Reddit is for sure not going to be really the best place for you because it's not very visual. Something like a Pinterest or an Instagram would be the place where I would start. Right now, I get the most traction from Facebook. It was Twitter back in 2015, but I really switched back. But I will tell you, over the last, since about February, did I just say that weird? February is a weird word to say, because do you pronounce the R? Do you not? How much? Anyway, since the beginning of February or so of 2016, I really have been kind of diving into Snapchat. And I use Snapchat as kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what I'm doing. It's very transparent. It's very fast. You share in 10-second segments. And I'll tell you a funny story. You never realize how long 15 seconds is, which is how long video you can do on Instagram, until you've been compressing your message into 10 seconds on Snapchat. So a blessing in disguise there. But I've been promoting a lot of stuff on Snapchat. I don't have a huge following on there. By the way, I'd love for you to follow me on Snapchat and say hi. Just search for @Ellory Wells. Actually, you don't have to put in the @ anymore. You just, I think you swipe down and you hit add friends and search for Ellory Wells, no space. But I've been using that to promote things on Instagram, and then I use Instagram to post on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'm not really a huge fan of LinkedIn. There aren't good analytics that come out of there. They change your links up so you can't even really track links on LinkedIn, and it's just not my favorite social platform. So to the shortest answer I could give you, Joe, is probably Facebook. And not Facebook pages, I don't know that those are necessarily going to be a huge thing moving forward unless Facebook revises their algorithm. They changed it to, online marketers have been complaining for quite a while about how they changed the algorithm and nobody who likes their page sees their stuff anymore without paying for it. It is what it is. It's still a relatively cheap advertising platform. But anyway, I don't see Facebook pages coming back as just a huge thing. But I still get interaction and connection on Facebook. Now, in an upcoming episode of the Ellory Wells Show, I'm going to talk about how I moved my mastermind group from a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, over to Slack, and what happened to the Slack group, what happened to the Facebook group, and why I decided to move it back to Facebook. It's a big decision for me. It impacted my client list, and I had a lot of conversations. So I think if you are looking at Slack for your social group, you'll want to pay attention to that. You're going to want to come back to another episode of the Ellory Wells Show. But hopefully that answers your question, Joe. Facebook right now, but it really depends on where your audience is and where they connect with you. So Facebook for me, Joe. Thanks. And now it's time for shit that pisses me off. Okay, so I told you about this email. Don't think if you email me, you're going to have all of your questions or comments or whatever shared on the show. Everything is off the record unless I get your permission first, or I'm going to either change your names or make it as anonymous as possible. So don't feel free to email me, reach out, say hello without the risk of having your stuff shared on a blog post or the podcast episode. So I had emailed this person. We're going to call her Susan. That's not her real name. I am changing her name. But I got this email from Susan, and like I mentioned before, we had met, and I said, hey, we met just a year ago at blankety blank, and you and so-and-so came to meet me and have some coffee. I just wanted to see how things were going for you. I hope all is well. And she replies back,
Hi, Ellory. I had to take a job in October working for a hospital as my unemployment ran out. I am working for way less than what I'm accustomed to making and in a role that is very different than my background, so my life has been in upheaval these past 6 months. I have been continuing to look for opportunities with my skill set, but have not yet had anyone reach out to me at all. Not sure where the disconnect is, as I have been told I have a really good resume. I am, however, thankful I have a job with benefits. Hope you have been well. It is good to hear from you.
What do you think about that email? I read it, and the coach in me is becoming harder and harder for me to keep suppressed. It keeps coming out. And I'm thinking, okay, the first thing that stood out to me is I have not had anyone reach out to me at all. What the heck, Susan? Why are you waiting for someone to reach out to you? I know her profession. I think she was a project manager. And honestly, the project managers out there, you might get mad at me for saying this, but a really good on-the-ball salesperson doesn't need you, or they need you to do things that they can't do, and you have to be really good. I used to work with a lot of project managers when I was at Dell, and most of them were awful. Sorry, but most of the project managers out there, the certified PMP guys, they didn't really do anything that I couldn't do myself. It has to do with, maintaining a customer relationship, managing a project, and I did all of that. Maybe that was just me. Maybe you're a salesperson out there and you have had just some great luck with a project manager, or maybe you're a PM yourself and you're kind of frustrated at me right now, but that's okay. The fact is, the Susan person did not get a job because she's waiting around for someone to tap her on the shoulder and say, it's your time. How many times have I talked about not sitting around and waiting? If you check out my 2015 year in review, my lessons learned post there, you'll see that one of the things that really worked for me and how I grew my business 404% year over year last year was that I asked for business. Nothing good will come to you unless you ask for it. Take the lottery, for example. You can't win the lottery if you don't play. Now, I'm not saying you should go out there and play the lottery, but the same thing applies to everything that you want in life. No one's going to come around, give you the tap on the shoulder, and give you the promotion or the raise that you want. Nobody, if you want to be an entrepreneur, no one is going to say, hey, I'd love for you to come and start a business with me. You have to do something. You can't sit back like Susan and say, well, I wonder why no one has reached out to me. I'm not sure where the disconnect is because I've been a really good resume. You know how many people have been laid off in the last 6 years? Tens of hundreds of thousands. And if I'm going to hire somebody, I'm going to hire somebody who really wants the job, not a rock star resume. There's probably 10,000 people just like Susan with a really cool resume. And whatever you're wanting to do, there's probably 10,000 other people that are pretty good at what you're wanting to do as well. You have to go after what you want. Every coaching client, every mastermind person that works with me and is paying me money and is helping me build my business, I have asked them if this would be a good fit. I have gone after business, and if you want to start your business, if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to ask too. You can't sit back like Susan and wonder when someone is going to bless you with the opportunity. Tough love, and that's what the Ellory Wells Show is all about. You've seen probably my show icon. It's blue. It's big, bold letters, real business growth. I know you're busy. And by the way, thank you for spending the time with me when I know you're busy. But because you're busy, we're not going to mess around. We're going to do whatever I can to help you move the needle for yourself. Anyway, the other part of this message was she sat around waiting for her benefits to run out. I was in the same position, and I don't mean to be a jerk. I don't mean to be rude. You might be unemployed yourself. But the guy that she came and met me with is probably still on unemployment. And I met him 12 months ago. It took me less than 12 months from whenever I got fired from my job to start making money. Now, did I start making the same amount of money that I was before? No. But you're going to sit around and wait for your unemployment to run out? Come on, guys. Come on. If you get off your butt and do something. I want you to hear the passion in my voice. I want you to hear the intensity with which I am talking to you right now, because you cannot be Susan. You cannot sit around and wait until the end of the line or wait for someone to reach out to you, and you can't wait for good things to happen in your life. You have to go out there and make them happen. Like I said, tough love. Anyway, this gets me fired up. I literally, to record this episode right now, it's a Saturday morning right now, and actually it's a little bit into Saturday afternoon, and I was playing. You guys know probably that I'm a big gamer. I like movies and, well, especially video games. And I've been playing Tom Clancy's The Division on my PlayStation 4. And I was sitting there and this email came back. She responded to me and I read the first line. You know, you get that summary and it said I had to take a job in October working for as my unemployment ran out. And I stopped. I literally paused what I was doing. For you familiar with the game, I left the mission that I was on, and I this is a perfect podcast opportunity. So this stopped me dead in my tracks, and I wanted to share it with you. Susan, if you do listen to this, I don't think she will, but obviously, you know by now that wasn't your real name. And anyway, let's move into something a little bit more constructive. Hopefully that helped you. Hopefully that gave you some motivation to do something, to get off your butt and do something to change the results that you've been getting. Let's go into this really cool coaching call that I had with John Stolpe. This is the first one that I did, so if it's a little bit rough, I apologize. But there have been a couple segments that have been edited out, but none of the major content points. I want to share this with you so that you know what it's like to receive coaching, number one, and to kind of demystify this thing that it seems to be like anyone online can say they're a coach. Whether they have clients or not, it doesn't matter. I do have clients, and I want to show you, I want to pull back that curtain, shed some light on the coaching profession. I've gotten these guys permission. In this case, I've gotten John's permission to record and share this conversation before we had it. This wasn't this was a great call. You mind if I use it? Or any high pressure or anything like that. And he fills out an application, and we go through that and really try to help him move his business. As I mentioned in the first show, this segment is not to show you these entrepreneurs who are making tens or hundreds or millions of dollars a year. It is to show what real people like you and I are doing in their business, what they're struggling with, how they are finding solutions, and how together we can find a way forward. So we'll throw in some transition music here, and then we'll go into the coaching call with John. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Ellory?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to do this segment is a coaching call segment, and instead of doing interviews of famous people or people who are making 6 and 7 figures, I wanted to incorporate a coaching call into the show because I think we can relate, me and you and the listeners of the show or people who might watch this later, we can relate to the personal struggles and challenges of what real people are going through. So what I have found in doing the Empowered podcast for around 100 episodes or so is that the episodes that people relate to the most are the ones with average people like you and I. So thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this. Tell us a little bit about where you are, what you are doing now, what kind of goals you have over the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months, and then we'll look into what we can do to get you there.
Sure, thanks. My name is John Stolpe, and I live up in the Philadelphia area. I happen to work in corporate America for a large construction company in the Philadelphia area, and we do building automation. So we do like heating and air conditioning control and lighting control and security systems and all kinds of things like that. And I started as an engineer. I graduated from Grove City College out in Western PA with a degree in mechanical engineering, and did engineering for a while, went back and got my MBA at Penn State and became a project manager. And then I've been an operations manager at my company for, I don't know, I want to say 8 years. It may be a little more than that, but it's been a while.
Okay.
Generally, I enjoy what I do at my job, but I also have a lot of other passions and a lot of other focuses that kind of keep me going. And I think that that's how we connected. I write a blog called John Stolpe Stretched, and it's my website's johnstolpe.com. So I've been blogging for 8.5 years now, so it's been a while. And I've gotten to connect with a lot of neat people over the course of those 8 years. Over the last year or two, that focus has gone in a little bit of a next level, where I wrote my first book back a year and a half ago called Untracked, Life Lessons from the Track and Field.
Awesome.
And that was a neat opportunity for me to experiment with the whole self-publishing world and how that works. I learned a lot about that. I've also been doing some speaking on the side, where I've had some opportunities to speak at some local universities and colleges, and I'm also practicing that through my involvement with Toastmasters, which has been fantastic. Right now, as you know, because of our mastermind group, I have been starting to work on another book project about disciplines. If you follow my blog the last year in particular, you'll notice that there's a lot of focus on disciplines. And so I'm somebody who's known as a disciplined person. I wake up at 4 o'clock just about every day. I have a quiet time. I go to the gym. I work out for an hour. I come home and I eat almost the same thing for breakfast every day. And then I take a shower. I'm off to the office and I eat the same thing at lunch. I eat the same thing for a mid-morning snack and mid-afternoon snack. and just somebody who's very disciplined.
Do you wear the same gray turtleneck every day too?
I do not, but I would, if I could get away with it, I would wear a blue dress shirt every day, no tie, although I have to wear a tie 4 of the days of the week, and khaki pants, and I'd be good to go.
So let's get to some of the goals.
Sure.
Tell us what 6, 8, 12 months, what would John Stolpe like to be doing? What would you like to add? Maybe eliminate? Tell us about those.
I think, for one, we've been talking on our mastermind call about the book about disciplines. I'd like to have that written in the first half of this year, if at all possible. So that's one thing. Something I probably didn't include in the questionnaire, but one of the things that's close to my heart is serving in a community in Guatemala called Xenico. And our family's getting ready to go there this summer for 2 weeks. And hopefully that doesn't fall. Well, it probably will fall when we have a mastermind call. Maybe I'll have to do that from Guatemala.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool. But at any rate, we've got a lot of the funds raised for getting down there, but now we need to figure out how we're going to pay for some of the things we want to do while we're down there. We've built a few houses down there. I have a life goal of building 100 houses down in Guatemala before I die. And so, I'd love to be able to figure out a way through my writing and speaking to help contribute to making that happen. So that's kind of a goal I probably didn't mention in my survey to you.
I don't think you did, but that's pretty cool. I know you've been working with people in Guatemala for a long time.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the first year I went, which was, I guess, 3.5 years ago, the house we built down there was paid for completely by my blog, by blog readers, which was really cool. So the next year we went, the next year we built houses, which was a summer and a half ago. We built 2 houses. Our family built 2 houses in a week with some locals. We hired some locals to help us. But the funds for those 2 houses came through fundraising. And I posted about the experience of taking a leap of faith and then also the experience of making a big ask. And that can be tough. I make a reasonable living as an engineer and as an operations manager. So to go asking people to contribute to something like that was humbling for me. It was, I felt, and I still feel this way, is it okay for me to make that kind of an ask? But what I've learned is that people are waiting for you to ask them. They may not be willing to go down to serve in a place like Guatemala, but they want to be able to be used to help the people in Guatemala. So if I'm willing to be humble, it gives other people the opportunity to be involved. Now, the second time we built houses down there, the houses actually only cost $2,000 a piece. And so we were able to raise the $4,000 to build both the houses, but then we also raised money for putting bunk beds in these houses, which is a big luxury for the villagers in Xenico. They're used to either all sleeping on one bed or sleeping on the dirt floor. So that was a big thing. That fundraising, there might have been a little bit through my blog, but that was done more through some traditional fundraising with my family, where we had a fundraising recital that my son put on, and that raised a big chunk of money. My daughter made jewelry to make that trip happen.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool. There's a quote out there, and I don't know who said it, but it's something to the effect of the person who gives the gift is usually or has as much happiness as the one who receives it or something like that. And I think that's directly tied to what you're doing. When you're giving somebody the opportunity to fund the building of a house, you're giving somebody the opportunity to change a life that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think that there's parallels to that when you create products or when you pitch yourself going on stage. We have to believe that what we, and you might have heard me use this analogy, we have to believe that what we have is like a glass of water, and we have to go in search of the thirsty people.
It's a great way to look at it. And I think sometimes we sell ourselves short because we aren't, we don't see it as that. We don't see it as us having something to offer. And I think that, in the entrepreneur world that I consider myself to be part of, even though I'm working the corporate world, I need to make sure that, I'm confident that I know that I have something that is worth giving to other people or selling to other people. And
I mean, you've got this book on these disciplines. How many is it? I don't want to. Is it 12?
Well, when I last documented it, I think I had over 30 disciplines that I've written about in the last year or so.
Okay, so I was thinking way off on these numbers. However many the book comes out to, you've got to think, okay, this isn't just a book. These are some life-changing disciplines that I've put into my life, and I have gotten, because of it, I've gotten a direct result that I'm pretty happy with, that has led to me being able to do this in Guatemala. It allows me to send my daughter to college or whatever. It's allowed me to spend time with my family, and these disciplines are what allowed me to get there. Do you have problems in your life? Well, these disciplines might, one or two or 12 or 20 might apply to you, and might be this water where you're thirsty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I hear people who are envious of the disciplines that I keep, but really it's a matter of saying, hey, you can do this too. And I feel like I have that opportunity, that platform, even to use that word, to share with other people and to push them along and encourage them to even take one of those disciplines and change their life in a little bit. And it may change it much bigger than I could ever imagine, or they may ever imagine as well.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to keep that in mind. I think my note here was you want to have that book done, let's say, June 1st?
I think I'd love to have it written by June 30th.
Okay. And when you write each chapter, each discipline, think, okay, who in my life do I know that could really benefit from this? Or how has this specific discipline changed me? And whenever you do that, by the way, I would email or call that person that you think of and say, hey, I'm working on a book. It's about disciplines, and this is one that has really impacted me. And you don't even have to say, I think it will help you. But just by you sharing your story that kind of in the back of your mind that they're going to relate to, they might buy the book. Selfishly, you could use that as a sales technique. But they very well could open up and say, hey, yeah, it has. And that will get you an audience person, and that will fuel your fire to get back to writing. That'll be some great testimonials and case studies and stories that you could incorporate into the book. By doing that, you may push the publication date out a little bit, maybe to August, but you could have so many different and new stories because you went into it with this approach. And that's what I coach a lot of people on, John, is kind of this. I think it could be thrown in the same bucket as self-doubt, but going into it, we have to believe truly deep down that what we have is what people need. And until people start coming to us, until people start saying, hey, John Stolpe, we'd like to hire you to come speak. And we're in that process before that of making proposals and writing blog posts. We've got to go into every situation with, okay, this is going to help somebody's life. And maybe not just somebody, but maybe specifically the avatar, which I know you had mentioned about that before. So I think you're on the right track. You said your goals for the next 6 to 12 months, Guatemala, publish your book by June, or get it done anyway, by June 30. I know you also mentioned that at least going into 2017, you want to be on stage speaking and talking more. So let's combine that with the answer to your next question. You would like to walk away from the coaching call with 1 or 2 action steps that will help get you closer to that goal. So applying that to the speaking thing, I think hopefully you have some action steps for getting the book done. What are some things that you could do to start getting speaking engagements? You mentioned Toastmasters before.
Yeah, so I'm the club president of my Toastmasters chapter, so I get a lot of great opportunities to speak there. I think that looks a little different depending on my audience. I think one of the things that I need to do is I need to step up and offer to speak more for my corporation, for the company I work for. I've had more opportunities to do that. I had a great opportunity to speak to our annual management meeting back in November. But I think if I could leverage that to be able to have some more speaking opportunities within the company, I think that would be helpful. I know that I probably need to reach out to some people. We had talked on our mastermind call about reaching out to some podcasters just to have the opportunity to even share some of my story on their podcast as a way to extend some of my speaking. So I've started to do that. One of your buddies, Rocco, has me signed up to do an interview with him in January. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. But I think I need to go through that list and see who else I might want to reach out to and have that question or that ask of, would you be willing to have me on your show? I'd love to be part of it. So that'll be part of it. I think the other thing is I probably need to do some investigation to see if there's some other areas, other places, whether it's local universities or some business groups that I might be able to share some things about disciplines, about leadership. Those are some of the areas that I'm passionate about. So I think some of that is just sitting down and generating that list and then start asking.
Okay. I would probably focus more on the asking, and I know every Toastmasters group has a different dynamic and they're all slightly different, but my guess would be the people who are your peers in Toastmasters are probably not the same people who would be in essentially hiring roles.
Yeah, it's probably a mixed bag. I mean, there's probably some, but there are some that are in hiring roles like myself, but there are certainly a lot of others who aren't. You're correct.
Well, let me add, maybe hiring roles isn't the right one, but speaker, sign them on and
gotcha.
You're
right. But I think as far as practicing speaking, I think Toastmasters has been a good place. I do think that there'd be an opportunity for me to try speaking at some other clubs too, just to help with practicing the speaking skill and developing that. As far as getting paid to speak, I don't think that that's necessarily the avenue, although it may open up some avenues for that.
Well, you never know what those could lead to, even the speaking ones. Full transparency, I have asked to be on people's podcasts because I thought it would help me gain audience, but I also had to go into it with the idea that my story would help that audience.
Sure.
So again, in full transparency, it took me a long time and interview upon interview to figure out not only what that story was, but those points that can move the needle for somebody else. So define your story, exactly what it is. Like there are parts that, as with anybody, there are parts that you feel are really interesting and that are maybe core to your character. And there's some of those, even within that subset, that it's not that nobody cares about, but it's not necessarily relevant to helping the listener get to where their goal is. And I'm going to say listener the same as whether that's with a podcast or someone sitting in an audience in an auditorium. Like, why is this relevant to me? It's that whole thing you've probably heard a million times. We're all tuned into one radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And we will have to not only define your story, but what is the value of your story? Yeah, there's value there, but how did your life suck before you did put these disciplines into place? Maybe that's not the word to use, but the bigger difference between before and after that you can make, or the bigger difference you can make in the life of someone who reads your book or hears you on stage, the more authority you can have, the more you can charge for your services. Everybody would like to know that story of how you go from homeless to millionaire. Everybody would like to know that one key thing that made Bill Gates go from nerdy Harvard dropout to richest man in the world. And of course, there's no one key, but that big difference between the before and after. What is the difference between John Stolpe before to John Stolpe now? And that margin in the middle, if we can define that and put that into a discipline book, you can sell it. You went from this crazy wreck of a person to this structured person who's in management at a great company and has a happy life and family. Okay, now I want to pay attention from craziness to awesomeness. So we need to find not only what your story is, but what are those 3 to 5 key points that somebody can say, okay, if John did it, I can do that too. I'm in a similar position, and maybe these 3 or 4 or 6 disciplines, if I can put them into place, my life will suck a little bit less.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, part of, you talked about the avatar earlier, and part of what I see myself, I think I can reach out to a lot of different people, but I think that, one of the areas I see myself is talking to myself 10 years ago or whatever, when, I had young kids. I was frustrated because I wasn't moving up in my company. And, I was just trying to figure out how to make life work and to move on and move up. And I think that a lot of these disciplines were a catalyst for me being able to do that. Some of it's a natural course of time. I think some of it's some natural giftings I have too. But I really think that, when I started engaging some of these disciplines into my life, it really allowed me to move along at a much quicker rate towards some of the things that I've been going after. Whether it's a management position at my company, or whether it's releasing that first book a year and a half ago, some of those things would not have happened if I did not at some point say, hey, you know what, I need to make some changes. So
yeah, if you're talking to a podcaster whose audience was primarily authors, I know some. I think you might have been on the experts call with Jimmy Burgess. I mean, how powerful would it be to say, okay, this discipline of getting up at 4 a.m. allowed me to publish my first book? And that's directly relevant, and there's probably a fair amount of truth to that. And if you're when you're working on your second book, you're going to keep that same schedule. You're going to figure out what you can cut. There's probably 2 or 3 disciplines that apply to every single situation. And if you go in there into a podcast interview or a YouTube video or a blab or anything like that to the host and say, hey, I know your audience is authors. I have published a book. I'm working on my second one. These disciplines are about the book, but I would love to share with your audience. I think they would really find some value in 3 or 4 that I picked from my book that have helped me self-publish and been a blogger for 8.5 years and built an audience of XYZ. And, you go into it with that. I mean, that's a pretty compelling interview that they will know is relevant to their audience. And that's what we're all looking for, right? Is how does this move the needle for the people listening or reading or watching?
Absolutely.
Or sitting in the audience in your case. So, how can we help you with the last couple minutes? We'll wrap it up.
I think that you really hit on a number of things that I need to reconsider. I really like the fact that you suggested sending chapters out to individuals. Once I finish something, writing with somebody in mind, sending that out to them, both for their feedback and hopefully to help them as well. I've gained a lot just from our conversation here this afternoon, and a lot for me to chew on. I don't know if I have any questions at this moment. I know I'll get a chance to connect with you again, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably have some more things to ask you at that point.
Sure. By the way, I would call those, if you can, I would call those people because you know me, I'm a big fan of automation and those kinds of things. And I have realized that in some ways I've automated too much, and email's great. But if you could pick up the phone and just say, hey, what's going on, and share that story, I think you would probably have better results than just email. So anyway, I know we'll stay in touch and connected with this, John, because some of the other things that we're doing. I want to see June 30th. That's, what is that? 6 months or like 7 months and 2 days or something from now. I think you can get it done.
I think I can too.
Let's do that. And
so
keep the eye on Guatemala and all of the families you're giving bunk beds to.
Yeah, that's a big thing. If you've got any interest in what we've done in Guatemala in the past, you could go onto my blog and search Guatemala, and there'll be so much information that comes up. And some of it's just stories and thoughts about what I've experienced. Some of it really tells the stories of some of the people we're helping. I'd always welcome if people want to talk to me about that. I'd be glad to tell people a little more about that. They can certainly connect with me on my blog at johnstolpe.com. I'm on, all the social media things with Twitter and Facebook and whatnot too. So
what's your social preference? And we'll put that in the show notes.
Facebook's a great way to go, actually. I'm probably on that more than anything else. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me and connect.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I will make sure all of those things are on a notes page. Thanks for letting me share your story, John, and I know somebody out there will connect with it. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, could I do one more plug, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I just want to encourage any of your listeners, if you are looking for a group of people to help you grow and to help you advance along in what you're trying to accomplish, I would really encourage you to check out Ellory's mastermind group. That I've said it to Ellory, but it's probably one of the best things I've done in the last couple of years as far as just encouraging me and helping me in my writing and my speaking and some of my confidence. Not to mention that I've connected with some really just incredible people. And if you are on the fence about joining Ellory's mastermind group, the Catalyst Mastermind Group, I would just encourage you. I would love to just push you over onto the side of making that decision to sign up, because you won't regret it. So it's money well spent and it's time well spent.
Well, I promise I didn't ask John to say that. Thank you, John. I that means a lot. That means a lot. I know the investments, time, money, family, all that goes into everybody that joins one of those things, and I'm glad that I'm providing value to you and Amy and Matt and Steve and Jason and everybody else who's in there. So thank you. And again, thanks for coming on and letting us dissect your life for a few minutes.
Sure thing. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
So what did you think? Was that like a coaching call that you had expected? Coaching it's an interesting thing, because whenever you tell somebody or share this kind of advice, whenever the other person or the person receiving it, whenever they put it into action and it changes their life. The first time, my very first coaching client, after about 6 months, after we had done, she messaged me and she said she had quit her job, and I was terrified. I didn't want to read the second paragraph of her message because I was terrified. I was like, what did I say? But that's the power of coaching. You have the ability to change somebody's life, and I am absolutely, completely blessed to be able to do that. If you want the full interview, we cut that down, not because there was necessarily content that needed to be edited out or something that I or John was trying to hide. But if you want to see that, if you go to ellorywells.com/show2 and then show the number 2, you'll be able to see all of it. All of my coaching calls are done with video, so there's a much more personal connection, and you can see the full thing. It's about an hour long. Again, we didn't cut it just because we were trying to hide anything or there was something that we weren't necessarily comfortable with, but we were just trying to get it down to a certain time. So that's it. I would love for you to check that out. And again, if you want to apply for a coaching session just like the one that you heard with John, of course it would be tailored to you and what you're doing and where you are in your journey and those kinds of things. You can go to ellorywells.com/show2 as well, and there's a link to where you can fill out a questionnaire and submit to be invited as a guest and have a free coaching call with me. Before we finally wrap up the show today, I want to mention one other thing. I've got my next book. I have been working on this since August. It's called Exit Strategy, and it's the exact tactics that I would take today if I were in the position I found myself in 4 years ago, when a friend became an adversary and an adversary became a boss. And it's not just a tagline to tell you a book. This was a friend. We both went for a promotion. He got it. I didn't. I did something probably a little bit stupid, but I was fired within 6 months. And if I found myself in that kind of position where it's do I apply for more jobs, or do I search, or do I bet on myself, what would I do? And I'm putting that into this Exit Strategy book. I'd love for you to check it out. Pre-orders are available, theexitstrategybook.com. I want to make sure I mention that, theexitstrategybook.com/pre-order if you're interested. And I'll give you a copy of the book. I'll mail it myself. It's not quite done yet, but that's the point of a pre-order, right? So anyway, have an awesome day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a listener of the Ellory Wells Show. I'm about to go hop on to my next mastermind call here in just a few minutes, and I'm destined for great things today because I'm going to be meeting with great and amazing people. I hope you have an amazing day as well. Go do something awesome. I'm Ellory Wells. Thanks for listening.